Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, we're gonna dive into market structure and we're gonna use ranges to clarify all the doubts giving this new point of view. So in the market, there are two types of market structure. So we have the bullish one and the bearish one. Now, the main characteristic about the bullish market structure is going to be made by high highs and high lows, as we all know. We can confirm a high low to be protected until price makes a new high. In other words, we had a BOS, right? So that would be our point of view on the market structure. Through the course, we learn to identify valid structural points that are simply three candle formation on a high time frame and onto a lower time frame, highs and lows that previously took out liquidity. So basically QMs as highs and strong lows as lows, right? Same things apply, simply vice versa, to the bearish market structure, where we have lower lows and lower highs being made. The lower highs will be protected after price makes a new low, making what we consider a break of structure, right? All highs and lows are simply QMs, or in other words, three candle formation, right? I prefer to stick with the view of a QM so I can see what I actually do, because some three candle formation didn't took barely internal range liquidity and took some kind of inducement. For me, a strong high and a strong low is more valid when it takes out liquidity. And remember that when we talk about a range, so when we have our strong low and our strong high, what we have inside of a range, so let's say from A to B, all of this is going to be called internal range liquidity, right? Then what comes after that the range get formed? This is simply what we consider inducement, also EDM. You may find it also wrote in this way, right? So for me, a protected high and protected low, it must take out some kind of internal range liquidity. Not all the time, but let's say 80-90% of scenarios, you will see strong highs and strong low hold the most when you take out internal instead of inducement. So let's just now look at the market structure on the scenario we have on you these days. So the first issue that comes when seeing the market structure is that we don't know where to start, because we have so many two candle formation and we have so many break of structure, right? And we can easily fall into the trap that we learned so far that we call T1 and T2, right? How many people will see this as a BOS and try to cash some shorts out of these areas, right? How to downfall into this trap. If you only look to the basic of the market structure, you will fall easily into this trap because we don't have rules talking about the market structure. It's just a consequence of higher highs and higher lows get respected through the market structure, but you don't have objectivity to downfall into the trap. Because if you only follow market structure, you will have to follow every single BOS that you find to the market. And that's where range came to help us. So what we know so far about ranges is our range is confirmed when we have a strong low and a strong high. The order flow and our overall bias will make the low or the high weak. So right now what we see price taking out liquidity, a three candle formation, and taking out a structural point. And that's what we consider a strong low, right? Then here above, we have price taking out liquidity and taking out a valid structural point, right? So here we have now our range confirmed from A to B. Our bias will make the price going bullish, so making our B potentially weak. And now we have what we consider internal range liquidity. Remember that price will not just take all of the internal range liquidity of the range, even checking onto multiple time frame, because even if you drop down lower onto the 1 minute, you will find even internal range liquidity down there, but price is not gonna put all of his interest down there. You have to use confluence. You have to tie up everything we learned so far from this strategy. You can't just put up your QMs, mark up some interrange liquidity, and expect price to just come all the way down there, because that's not how it works, and that's not how it's explained. We have to use all the confluence together and understand what's going on, right? So now we have our range. You can actually take some longs down there. Then we broke structure. And now you see how everything is so clear. We can take longs all down here until our QMs forms. But what's the logic behind QMs? We know so far from the market structure that we have two phases into the market structure, right? So we have what we can consider the expansion and the pullback or the retracement, right? So if we compare them on a market structure point of view, we will have something like this by switching all the market phases. We will have bullish one. If you, let's say, on the 4-hour time frame, let's make it like this. So that will be the 4-hour. And this example will be, let's say, the 15-minute. Right. So what's separating these two phases that we know so far is simply a BOS from not a random point, but for a valid structure point that for us will simply be a QM, right? In this scenario, price broke a strong low that should get respected. But why a strong low should be respected? Because we are bullish. So all these lows are simply strong lows on a lower time frame, and to another simply three candle formation. So price where it broke it, change phases, right? So where price came out to external, so we can anticipate price from the high time frame, taking out some target, came back for the internal. That's going to be for us our pullback. So we're gonna start a new market structure. That in this case is going to be the bearish one. So we will have strong highs, strong lows. But in this case, since we know the structure, the highs are gonna be protected. Also, they're gonna be what we consider strong, and the low are gonna be weak, right? And then the story repeats again. So here, all of the high will be protected, and then one breaks, meaning that we have literally completed the cycle from the internal range liquidity, and now we can get to the external. That will be the end for the pullback or retracement phase, going into the expansion phase. If you look into the structure point of view, you will get confused a lot, but you have to tie up ranges to make it even easier. So if we move back to the example, you understand right now why all of these lows were protected, right? You were in the expansion. We were targeting some internal or external range liquidity, or even approaching some logical area, right? Then price broke a protected low. And as you can see, we were bearish also even inside. You can spot the break of structure even earlier. This will depend on how many data you have when you do your analysis, right? So you could spot it right there. And then you could catch some short opportunity all above this high until lower time frame. And then look again what happened. We got three candle formation right there. So we know simply that strong low get formed. What is this? It's simply a three candle formation, so that will be a strong high. So it will simply mean that onto lower time frame, that's a range. The high got broken. I remember that this one is a valid structural point. Then as you can see, we switch the phases. Many data you will gather will be made by obstacle, POIs, etc. And we're just looking at the concept by themselves to just make you able to understand even clearly. Because if you look only at ranges with structure in this way, you won't catch many trades, because as you can see, range forms pretty much at the end of the move, so you wouldn't be able to catch any setup. That's why you have to tie up all the time frames, because everything repeats. So if you are, let's say, in this scenario on a 1 hour range, and you, let's say, you're good to analyze the 1 minute time frame, you pretty much catch every single movement inside of it. If you only look to the 1 hour, it's pretty much hard to identify even a setup onto this scenario. That's why you have to use your own logic and understanding behind the market. So I hope you all clarified these doubts about the market structure and how to implement ranges into it to have a clear approach and a clear view of the market. So see you into the next one.